If you had one shot or one opportunity to seize everything you ever wanted in one moment, would you capture it or just let it slip? Yo. His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti, he's nervous, but on the surface he looks calm and ready to drop bombs. But he keeps on forgetting what he wrote down. The whole crowd goes so loud, he opens his mouth, but the words won't come out. He's choking how? Everybody's choking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, loud. Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes rabbit. He choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. Daddies, he know he won't have it. He knows his whole back to these ropes. It don't matter, he's dope. He knows that, but he's broke. He's so stacked that he knows when he goes back to this mobile home, that's when it's back to the lab again, yo. This old rhapsody better go back to this moment and hope it don't pass him.
Listen, we can talk about the flag, but let's talk about... Wait.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media. Live, as always, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you know the drill. Like, retweet, share this show out. If you're over on YouTube, thumbs up and subscribe. So the best place to get involved in the show. We got lots to talk about today. Best place to get involved and get your voice heard on the YouTube page is where you can put your comments. Like these examples up on the screen that I have preset up here because that's the way. That's how we can interact with you. It is Overreaction Monday here on Trending in the AM. We already have comments coming in on my last one there. Angel Hernandez should have been ejected. Overreaction Monday here. I am Phil Stikelap here to Knowledge, joined by down below Jason Voorhees at Mustang3651 and Mark Moscatelli at Mark with a C. Moscatelli. Good morning, gentlemen, and how was your weekend, guys?
Great.
Fantastic. Great weekend.
I did not believe either of you right there. You're like, great and fantastic. That was the most overreaction reaction to your weekend that I could have heard, guys.
Well, the highlight of our weekend, well, my weekend anyway, was hanging out with you on Friday at the game.
It was a fantastic time getting to meet you in person. I'm sorry, Jason. That was only special number 2 for me. Me taking my top off the Jeep yesterday.
That's okay.
And getting to take a ride around town in my Jeep with the top completely off. I did make a Jeep amateur mistake yesterday, guys. I was in my Jeep for like an hour and a half with the top off. I didn't put suntan lotion on, and my arms are burnt to hell today. I look like a red lobster in the arms right now. Amateur mistake right there, guys.
I walked the dog yesterday. I guess if that counts as a great day. It was a nice day. The dog, me and him, and went for a nice long walk. We got to get him out a little bit more. He's got a lot of energy.
Yeah, got to get the dog's energy outside. My dog's sound asleep, so.
I told him that he usually barks right about now, and I told him, Daddy's going on the podcast. You can't bark right now. So let's see if he behaves.
He's
outside. He's outside? Good.
Okay, good.
Yeah, mine's sleeping.
Yeah. Mine's exhausted. We had people over yesterday, and he loves to, hunt all the people, and walk around. So he's sound asleep today. So today's it's Overreaction Monday. So we're going to overreact, as always, on Mondays here on the show. But the theme of the show is, what are you most concerned with? Okay, we could talk about Joel Embiid's hand, whether that's a concern for you. I put in the title Zach Wheeler's arm, but there's more than just Zach Wheeler's arm that could be concerning about the Phillies at this moment. Obviously, we got to talk about the Unruly fans because, man, I did not know Philly fans traveled to so many different stadiums and dressed up as the other team's fans to cause problems. So we got that, and also even Mark hasn't been on since Jay Wright announced his retirement, so we're going to overreact talk a little bit about Jay Wright as well. But obviously, Saturday night, let's start with the Sixers. Saturday night, Sixers dropped Game 4 to the Raptors. It's fine. I'm not overly concerned. My overreaction is I'm not concerned about it. But I want to get your guys, gauge your, level of concern with Joel Embiid's hand. Obviously, yesterday came out. It is a torn ligament, as expected. It changes nothing. He's going to play through it. I've never torn a ligament, in my hand, so I don't know what the pain level is there. We'll start with you, Mark. What is your level of concern going into Game 5 today with Joel Embiid's hand? Mark? We lost you there, Mark. We can't hear you. No, we don't hear you.
No,
Jason.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello?
Now we can hear you there.
You got me? All right.
Anything you said. So level of concern there.
about 5% concerned. The man is hurt. And it's pretty obvious his thumb hurts. And he did have a little bit of an off game, but I think a lot of it had to do.
We lost you again there, Mark. Yeah, we don't got Mark.
I mean, we're freezing. Are we still bad?
Yeah, you're in and out right now, Mark.
All right, go to Jason.
Yeah, Jason, where's your left? He's 5% concerned right now. So, Jason, thoughts on Joel Embiid's hand and where you're at with Joel Embiid?
Where I'm at with Joel Embiid, I'm absolutely not concerned because I think he's proven this year that he's able to battle through even, obviously on the surface, he hasn't been out a lot of games. Mm-hmm. But we have to all admit, we know Joel Embiid's past. We know his injury history. I'm pretty sure that he's played through a lot of injuries this year, and we don't even know about it. Like, I know how there's a lot of, media around the team and all, but they're not always going to tell you every single injury. Obviously, I don't even think they probably wanted this to get out. But sometimes these things do get out, and at that point, it's
pretty hard to not let it come out. I mean, you saw him grabbing his hand after every single touch of the basketball there and everyone's making a big deal about it. But I mean, this has been going on since at least the last week or two of the regular season as well.
Yeah, and that's why I really say, as Mark said, I don't really have. 5% is probably a good number, but I'm not really concerned about his injury. Nor am I really concerned about the Sixers as a whole, because obviously everyone wants a sweep. But listen, when you sweep in the playoffs, a lot of times that kind of gives you a big head. I think it's good to kind of come back down a little bit to earth. And they lost the game, and now it's like, okay, let's regroup and play Sixers basketball, play the way we've been playing. And that's why I'm not concerned. That's just me.
So my biggest concern, and Mark, we'll get back to you in a second here. My biggest concern with it all is it's a big target now. And you know what? We saw, in game 4 there, he didn't have his best game. You're not going to see it unless you pay close attention, but those defenders, they're going to chip him. They're going to bang him. They're going to accidentally bump into that hand more and more. And now that they know it's torn for sure, they're going to be targeting that hand. They're going to be reaching for that slap, that ball. They're going to do whatever they can to make him uncomfortable. And Joel has a massive pain tolerance level, but the more and more that target it, the more and more it's going to hurt. And the more you might see these types of games from like Saturday, where he's not as effective throughout the whole game. Now, even 80% Joel Embiid is better than 95% of basketball. And, there's still plenty of guys on our team that can step up. But that target that hand takes on him kind of concerns me a little bit. Sorry, Mark, are we good to go here?
God, I hope so. Let's see. Yeah, 5%. And then I agree, Phil and Jason, that they're going to target Embiid if they weren't already targeting him already. And they're going to do a lot of hand slaps, and they're going to foul him on his hand. They're going to make it extremely uncomfortable for him. I kind of wish we were back in the 80s or early 90s where you had a Charles Oakley-like enforcer on the team that can kind of squash that, but it's just not how basketball's played now. But yeah, they're home. The crowd is going to be crazy. I don't know who's going to ring the bell, but I guess it'll spark the crowd, hopefully, because they usually got some good bell ringers in the playoffs. And the Raptors, just you got to remember, like they've played them close in 2 games, and they beat us towards the end of the season, so they're no slouch either. But they should win tonight. I wish they would have swept with the news on Embiid's hand, so he can give it a rest a little bit. But that's just, 5 games versus 4. You're talking about a weekend, I guess. He'll still have some rest. But I see them winning tonight, and probably rather handily, no pun intended. But the other players got to step up because they're coming after Embiid. Harden's got to be shooting better.
I know you guys. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but you say we don't have an enforcer. But you notice, obviously, because we're going to talk a lot about baseball umpiring in this show. The refereeing, obviously, in Game 4 was not very good. And obviously, very, very swayed towards the Raptors. Whatever. I just like Doc Rivers said, I'm not going to complain like they did. But what I did notice towards the end of the game there, we were getting everything called for fouls anyway. So George Niang actually had 2 or 3 really, really hard fouls he put on Raptors in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game. Like I saw him go up for a block and like literally come down on guys a couple times. Just kind of, if I'm going to get called for the foul, I'm going to get called for a real foul, not like a little, tap foul there. So maybe George Niang, maybe bang, bang George Niang is that slight enforcer that we have on the team. I don't know. At least I'm glad you saw that, Mark, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't the only one that noticed that.
That game, I thought there was going to be some fisticuffs. It was a really rough game. And then if you want to get back to the officiating, this guy, Scott Foster, is that his name?
Scott Foster.
1 in 27, Harden and Chris Paul. And listen, Jason, I don't know if you remember, we had this conversation during the NFL playoffs, and I believe it applies to the NBA, that these leagues have certain narratives that they want played out throughout the season and playoffs. And why they don't outright fix games, they put certain crews to certain games to lengthen series, to switch it over, the stuff like that. And that's why you saw that guy ref that game. You can't tell me that league did not know that he was biased against a James Harden team.
Why is it the same refs reffing the entire series? That's what I don't understand. You would think that the same crew would stay on for a whole 7-game series. They get an idea of the flow of the game. They get an idea how the players are playing. You don't mix it up mid-series.
Is that something new?
I don't know. I never noticed it before. I know that doesn't happen in baseball.
It doesn't happen in hockey either.
I don't know. I never heard of it before. But to Mark's point, absolutely, there's a narrative that they want done.
Yeah, I believe that 100%.
There's absolutely a narrative there. All right, so Jason, tonight, obviously, like Mark says they win. Let's see here what the line is. What are your thoughts? Do they come out tonight and wrap this up tonight?
I think they do. I do think that, like Mark said, the other players got to step it up with Embiid. Not that Embiid can't dominate a game. I still believe he can. I still believe he can come out and have a 35-point game. But we need like Tyrese Maxey. I've noticed the last couple of games he's been. I'm not saying he's like played bad, right, but he's dropped off a little bit as far as his energy level again. So I'm looking for Tyrese Maxey to come out tonight and put up a really good game. And obviously James Harden. I mean, this is what he was brought here for. Like we've talked about it numerous times how he's been, in this role as the number 2 guy and not being the guy to carry the team. But we said if Embiid struggles, like he needs to kind of step up. So I'm hoping that in his mind he sees, like, okay, well, this might be the time where I need to come out and drop 30 points and have a good shooting game. Like it would be nice to see. Not like I said, I love James Harden. I'm not one of these people that are.
I actually think James Harden, his numbers didn't look fantastic, but I actually think I saw a little glimmer of hope with James Harden on Saturday. He was getting to the basket a little bit quicker. He had a couple first steps on some really good defenders on Saturday. Yeah, he still shot 5 of 17, 2 of 8 from deep, but he still actually like visually seemed a little. And it was the first game. My buddy was over yesterday. I asked him, like, did you notice something? He wasn't wearing something on Saturday. He didn't have the hamstring wrap on Saturday. So maybe he's getting closer and closer to being as healthy as he could be at this point in the season. So James Harden,
call out.
Maybe there's a corner being turned with James Harden. Still wasn't as quick as he used to be, but he was a little bit quicker than lately. So we'll see. They are a 7.5-point favorite, the Sixers tonight. I agree with you guys. They wrap it up, but that's still doesn't alleviate the fact that Joel Embiid's hand is going to be a topic for the rest of the playoff run, no matter what. Because like we said, chipping away on that hand and the pain. So we're going to transition that and that level of concern. I want to go from that reffing that we were just talking about into the Phillies series this weekend, and specifically last night. I know we wanted to talk about Zach Wheeler, but last night, Angel Hernandez, just like Scott Foster, Angel Hernandez. And the strike zone he had last night? And are you concerned that games last night might totally ruin baseball, guys, and bring out the robot balls and strikes umpire? Because I don't want balls and strikes being called by a robot or a computer. But nights like last night completely validate that as an option.
It's a great point. I don't think, I'm in the same camp as you. I do not want to see robots. I mean, how boring. It's already boring, but I mean, listen, like, there's got to be a human element to these games. Like, we've talked about it with replay. Like, so much replay was brought in, like, so that games don't get, lost on plays that realistically were out of line. Like, but there's got to be some kind of human element, and putting robots behind there, the game's already bad enough. To me, that would just kill it for me. But to your point, we can't have games like last night as far as the umpires, performing piss poorly the way they did. I mean, that was atrocious
on both sides.
Both sides, like, absolutely absurd.
I'm pretty sure Kyle Schwarber threw down. He pointed to the fans. Like, I can pretty much read lips. They see it, and he points to the Brewers. They see it. We see it. It was everywhere. I don't know if you guys saw it this morning. I just saw it this morning. There was a clip on Facebook or Twitter, wherever I saw it, of Angel Hernandez walking back off the field after the game. The fans were booing him and chanting him, and he looked and smiled like he actually did it. And that's the problem with the umpires and referees when they become part of the game.
Correct. You can't take Angel out of the game last night. Let's just say it's a competent, respected umpire behind the plate last night, and he calls the game the way it should, and it still turns out to be a pitching duel. The tone of the game, the tone of the fans, and the how it's covered is completely different. Where people are bought in, and it's not boring. It's like, all right. I mean, Nola was pitching a one-hitter. He was pitching a one-hitter through 7. I mean, that's a pretty good Angel Hernandez or not. That is a great pitching performance. But when you put somebody like that in there and you allow him to continue to be terrible and let it fester, you didn't see the ESPN coverage, but they were talking more about Angel Hernandez than they were about Nola's performance and the Brewers' pitching performance. And that is a problem. Like you said, he's taking away from the game itself. People come to watch the sporting event, not the officials that are officiating that sporting event. And last night was a worst-case scenario because it was prime time on ESPN, Sunday night, the only other game that was on. And it was a big black eye. But, again, Manfred probably doesn't really care. And the fans –
I don't know if you guys remember Naked Gun, and when Liam Neeson has to dress up as an umpire, he's like, and he's dancing every strike. He's got the vacuum cleaner on home plate to clean it off little, shot thingy. I don't know. That's what I think of when I think of Angel Hernandez. He wants to be the show, not just be in the background there. And we've seen umpires like this in the past. But
fun fact, Joe West was in that. Joe West was in that movie.
Another one that likes to be part of the show, But yeah, it's not good. Like, me and Jason went to the game on Friday night. And, of course, it was the one game the Phillies won this weekend. 4-2, was it 4-2, I think it was? 5-3, something like that. The games are already – I mean, for baseball purists, for old-timers like us that love the game, we're going to watch baseball no matter what. But if they're trying to rebuild the fan base and build it back up, they can't have things like Sunday night. They can't have things like Friday night, where it was – the game started at 7:05. It was 8:30, and we were just getting done the third inning. The game needs to get back to somehow. Hey, it's got to speed up, but it's got to get back to the pureness of the game and not all these other issues, because there will be no young fans growing up loving the game the way it's going, as we just see from the Phillies, just the Phillies perspective this weekend.
I mean, I got to agree. And what's frustrating is the trolls and the people that want to argue when purists like ourselves bring up the points that analytics is ruining the game. I'm not against analytics. Let me preface that. Never said I was against it. But when you go to a league and you make your league based all around analytics and you promote stats like OPS and, WAR and all these other, nonsense type, statistics, and that's where you're basing your premise that we're moving the game forward. We're growing with the times. No, it's not about growing with the times. It's about, I want to watch a game that's fun. And Friday night when I was at that game, I had fun because I was hanging out with you, Phil. I didn't have fun because I was watching the game. The game was boring. I mean, 25 strikeouts, like 14 walk, like these kind of games. That's why the game is so bad, because either people are striking out, hitting home runs, or walking, and there's not any fundamentals in the game anymore. There's no more fundamentals. It's like they've completely been erased.
So you're talking about the analytics, but there's two different sides of it. Because like last night, I caught the first 3 or 4 innings on the ESPN telecast, and the 3D graphic of the ball coming across home plate, to an extent, that's analytics, and it's an improvement on the game, and that was cool. It looked good. Made a better description of the balls and strikes and how bad Angel Hernandez was. But you talk about WAR. The one that annoys me so much, the analytic stat that literally I will never get behind, is the xERA. And the xERA is basically like, well, if the ball wasn't hit so hard, it might have been an out. Or if he didn't make good contact, it might not have been a home run. Come on now. It's basically like bad luck ERA. That's basically what it is. And to me, something like that, because people are like, well, I say Aaron Nola is not as good as he used to be because of his ERA. Well, other people say, well, and they brought it up on the telecast last night. Well, his ERA is only like a 3.5. Well, come on. It's because he gave up bad home runs and he gave up hits. You can't take them away. That is, first off, I did a solo show a couple weeks ago, and I spent 20 minutes talking about how much I hate xERA. It makes literally no sense to me. I don't know, Mark. What do you think?
I don't even know what the hell that is.
Literally, it's about soft and hard hit balls, and if they were outs instead of hits, what would his ERA be?
And if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. I mean, it's a useless.
That's an analytic stat right there.
Same thing with exit velocity and launch angle. It has nothing to do with the game. It doesn't, and that's why you're at strikeout, walk, home run. Those are the only 3 options really at the plate now for probably closing in on a generation of baseball. At least 10 years, and it's just. It's boring as hell, Jason. You're right. It's boring as hell. Whitey Herzog back in the 80s, I mean, played small ball with the Cardinals, and they ran all over the bases. They bunted. They didn't have anybody hit home runs, and they won a World Series in '82, and they were one of the strongest teams in the 80s. They went to a couple playoffs in the World Series in '85 as well. So there's nothing wrong with that baseball. There's nothing wrong with it. Unless they're going to be hitting home runs every inning, but that's not going to happen, and that'll get old after a while. But some of these stats, I agree, are worthless. I was watching when the batters were coming up back in our day. They would list your batting average, how many home runs you have, and how many RBIs. They led with OPS, which I'm not totally against that stat. It's just a combination of your on base percentage and your slugging percentage, but they led with that. I don't. Go ahead. Put that comment back on. I missed that.
So it's only values extra base hits and walks. OPS. Well, it's OPS. Sorry, and OBS. Yeah. They're all linked like that. They're not the worst stats in the world. There are literally stats for bad luck out there.
But here's the thing: you have all these different stats. You got the WAR, you got this, you got that. You now have overanalyzed baseball. You've totally overanalyzed it, where you've kind of lost perspective on how to play the damn game. And that's why you got guys like Kyle Schwarber leading off, and you got pitchers coming out in the fourth inning because the matchup isn't correct on the fifth. You got all these crazy things that are going on when, you hate to be that old man yells at cloud, but it was a lot better back in the day, man. It was.
Let me just give you guys, before we continue on, let me give you guys a couple things.
Real quick. I got a stat. Going into last night's games, right? There were currently 56 batters hitting below 200.
Yeah.
Okay? In Major League Baseball, the league batting average as a whole is 231. It's the lowest batting average in the history of baseball since 1871. If that doesn't tell you right there what's wrong with the game, I don't know what does. Because to me, they've totally devalued batting average, which in my mind is still the best as far as ranking somebody's hitting. Batting average, is basically non-existent right now. And that's, to me, is a travesty. And these guys, it's mostly young. It's mostly because I got called a boomer last night, which, by the way,
dude, you were hot too. I saw that.
Because it pisses me off. I'm not saying it has no part in the game, and I'm not saying that analytics shouldn't be looked at. But when I have some young kid who I don't even know the guy with 34 followers telling me that I'm a boomer and I don't know what I'm talking about, and I can't, I got called, what was the other word that I was used? I'm a geriatric. Come on, dude. I've been watching baseball longer than you've been alive. Don't give me that shit. That pisses me off. I get it. If you want to have an argument, then bring facts.
I think Jason's pissed off.
Because if you want to have an argument, bring facts. Don't call me a geriatric.
He's talking with his hands, Phil.
That's fine.
Jason's not even Italian.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's
look, what I was gonna say. Look, I just picked up Aaron Nola because Aaron Nola was the first name that came up. His baseballreference.com. There's an ERA plus. Adjusting the player's ERA based off of the ballpark they play in. Where was some of these other ones here? What's this? FIP, fielding independent pitching. The constant is set so that each this stat measures a pitcher's effectiveness at preventing home runs, walks, hit batters, and causing strikeouts. Well, isn't that why do we need that stat? You know what I mean? There's more. There's runs better than RAA, runs better than average. We've got park factor customized for parks that the pitchers threw in. These are stats that are on their baseball reference thing. Win percentage based off of loss. If every team was the same win-loss, if everybody was average. Win-loss if everybody played at a championship level. Dude, these are some of these stats. What's the point of all this?
No wonder.
How is that progressing the game? That's to me is made the game
worse.
worse.
Can I actually sidebar on that for a second? It progresses the game to an extent in the dugout. If they want to, try to use some of these stats, okay. Well, instead of batting Matt Vierling here, we're going to pinch hit with Odubel Herrera because our advanced stats say that. Okay, that's fine. But when you base the entire structure of a sport around it, then that's when it's a problem. But the finer details, okay, for certain little specific situations, all right, I can get behind it. But when that's all you do and that's all you talk about, that's the problem.
It's going to take an old school manager or a manager who thinks the way we're thinking to change the perception. So you have these teams that strike out, walk, home run. If you get a manager out there that plays the game the way it was played in the 80s, honestly, I think they would dominate baseball, number one. Number two, all these leagues are copycat leagues. If you have one guy that does it, others are going to follow. Similar to Joe Madden, who, he was kind of like the father of doing all this stuff. And everybody else wants to be the next Joe Madden. But it's going to take somebody who's got to go against the.
Is Buck Showalter an analytics guy, or is he an old school guy? I mean, he's older, so I would assume he's.
Well, here's the problem. It's not so much the managers. I should kind of change that. The front office really runs a lot of this stuff now, not the managers. You're telling me that Gabe Kapler ran the bench over when he was with the Phillies? I was on Matt Klentak. Matt Klentak gave him the spreadsheet, and these are the moves that you have to do tonight. And that's honestly not what the job of a general manager should be. You let somebody like Charlie Manuel would be a great example of somebody who could probably turn the tide. But the man's 75 years old. He's not going to manage anymore. But somebody with that thinking that a light bulb has to go off and say, you know what, I can do it better by going back what worked before. And if he does that and is successful, you'll see a lot of teams follow because it is a copycat league. But somebody has to be the pioneer in that, and I don't know if that's coming up anytime soon. And the front office has got allowed them to do that, which I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah. So your dad's piping in Boa or Manuel. Yeah, exactly. But both, I don't know. We talked about it maybe off the air about if Joe Girardi was fired, could they promote one of those guys for the interim? But I don't know if they might not have it in them to be the top guy anymore at this point, especially how long the season is and all.
Boa would have fought Angel Hernandez at plate last night.
Actually, I would have paid money to see Boa fight Angel.
He would have beat the shit out of him.
Wasn't last night a perfect opportunity for Joe Girardi to show that he has some life? Instead of Kyle Schwarber, going ballistic on Angel Hernandez, at some point in the 5th or 6th or 7th, either Joe Girardi, I don't even know who's the coach of the Brewers. One of those guys should have been out there. Hell, they should have looked at each other across the field and both gone out. And Angel Hernandez at the same time, and both of them got thrown out. And that would have been a statement to Major League Baseball, not one team just getting upset more than the other team. It was a 0-0 game till the 9th inning. So both managers going out, or when one's out there getting yelled at and thrown out, the other one should have came out too. That would have made a statement, and maybe Major League Baseball would have taken notice on Angel Hernandez there a little bit.
I would have loved that. And it shouldn't have taken – you're right. It shouldn't have taken Kyle Schwarber in the bottom of the 9th to absolutely go nuclear for something to happen. And then Joe Girardi came out and basically said, hey, man, you needed to do a better job. Like, that's not supporting your team. And that's a concern because now I think he's mailing it in. I think he wants to be fired. I don't think he wants to do this anymore. There's a lot of money invested in this team. Middleton and Dombrowski need to figure something out. Either get this team to play where it needs to be or get a manager in there who's going to let it fire under their ass and get –
I mean, there's only the Nationals and the Cincinnati Reds. They're the only two teams in all of baseball that are further behind first place at this point in the season than the Phillies right now. That's not good. Real quick, before we move on, because we got two more topics that I know we're going to spend a lot of time on. Zach Wheeler, Saturday, did not pitch well again. It's his third start. He's now given up 12 runs in 17 total innings. Is there any concern, Jason, that Zach Wheeler might be a little tired still from last year and all the innings he pitched? Because I'm pretty sure if you look at his track record, the years he has great long years, the next year he has a little bit of a dip-off. We are spending a lot of money on Zach Wheeler right now. Are you concerned with him at all?
I'm not concerned to the point where I think he's lost it. I think it's more so a combination of just not being able to pitch at all during the spring. You're seeing guys that did pitch a lot in the spring pitch terrible right now. And I think there is something to that as far as the shortened spring and obviously not being able to really – I mean, I'm sure they were, maybe practicing on the side or, throwing, but – not to the extent that they would have been had there been a normal spring training. So am I a little concerned? Yes. I think you kind of nailed it to the fact of his kind of up and down as far as when he's had a solid year. The next year he comes back, maybe not as good. Aaron Nola is the same kind of guy. As a matter of fact, I look for Aaron Nola to bounce back this year. But long term, I'm not really worried about Wheeler. I think he still looks – his arm doesn't look tired to me. It just looks like he's not locating his pitches. And that's what Aaron Nola's problem's been for probably the past 3 years. It's not a matter of lack of talent with either of these guys. It's just a matter of kind of mechanics maybe and not being right where they need to be. I hope that Zach Wheeler gets a turnaround because let's face it, we don't have Zach Wheeler at top tier by like June, we're in real trouble.
We're already in trouble. Mark, are you concerned at all with Zach Wheeler? And again, I get what Jason's saying, but now it's 3 games in. It's not the first game. At what point? And Joe checking in, he's lost velocity too, and that was going to be what I was going to say. It's not game 1. It's not game 2. Now we're into 3 games now, and he's still struggling to get out, struggling to get that velocity up. Mark, are you concerned at all?
I mean, yes and no. No, that I expected him to have a slow start because of the truncated spring training and the fact that he had mentioned his arm was tired. And then, yes, it has been 3 games, and, we haven't seen much of an improvement. What does his fastball usually top out at? I mean, I've seen it's 93, 94, 99. I mean, that's 5 miles. That's a lot. So he needs, I mean, is it the fact that he's building arm strength and he's taking his time? I don't know, man. My dad's on fire today.
I'm still going to get him on a show. Don't you worry.
Yeah. I am not concerned, but I am. I don't want to kind of be wishy-washy on this. I kind of expected it, but like his next start will tell the tale. Like, after 4 starts, I mean, that's about his month worth of work. I mean, if he's still not effective as a pitcher, like is this going to be all year? Do you shut him down? Do you send him down for extended spring training? What is the game plan? I don't know. But if he can't be the ace on the team, we're going to have a big problem this season. A season that's full of problems already.
It doesn't matter who the manager is. If Zach Wheeler's hurt or not good, we're in trouble. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there is quite a few top-level aces that are struggling to the point that Zach Wheeler is. I mean, you don't have to look further than the Yankees. Garrett Cole was probably the worst pitcher in baseball the first 3 or 4 starts. And last night, which was his, I believe, 5th start, maybe his 4th, he actually had a Garrett Cole-type game. Now, Garrett Cole, the interesting thing about Garrett Cole is that ever since that whole sticky substance thing happened, his pitching has not been the same. And there's a lot of guys in this league that are in that umbrella. And Zach Wheeler, to me, I know last year he still had a great year, but he did struggle in his last month. So I'm not saying that he's one of them guys, but there is a ton of pitchers right now in the league that have kind of they're not where they were. Another one, Shane Bieber. From the Cleveland Indians. Shane Bieber 2020 was unhittable. Last year, he had a very down year, and now this year he looks like nothing like the ace that he was. I'm not making an excuse. I'm saying that around the league, if you look, there's a ton of guys like that have dropped off. And I'm just wondering if it has anything to do with that sticky substance thing.
Probably has something to do with it, Jason. I mean, you take that tool away from everybody. Levels the playing field a little bit more. But hey, in good news, the farm, Painter and Abel are looking pretty good down there. So maybe in 3 years they could come up and make an impact.
I gotta wait 3 more years. Come on now, I'm getting too old for this already. Come on. All right, real quick. No, not real quick, because this is a pretty important conversation here. Obviously, Mark sent me this message like right away this weekend when it happened. He's like, we got to talk about this. Obviously, the Unruly fans at the Yankees game, throwing stuff at the, what do they call it, the Cleveland
Guardians
for a second. Like, just I was late at night the other night, and I was watching SportsCenter highlights, and they said the Guardians. I'm like, what? I was half asleep. I'm like, who are the? I had to think for a second who the Guardians were for a second. Obviously, that was Phillies fans doing that at the Yankee Stadium, obviously, but it's a growing trend. There's always been. Everyone always gives Philly fans, we're the awful, we're the bad ones. We do everything wrong. Nobody else has bad fans. Obviously, there's bad fans everywhere. You're just a hater on Philadelphia. You think it's only in Philadelphia. But I kind of see a trend where it's becoming more and more frequent that fans are getting physically involved, throwing things, to the players. the verbal abuse going to a level that should not happen, the fights in the stands. I think it's a trend where it's getting worse and worse. And I don't know how you stop it. And I also don't know why this trend is getting worse and worse. So, guys, is it a concern that the fan behavior at sporting events in general, not just the Yankees fans this weekend, just in general, are getting to the point where these players are ready to jump into the stands to fight these fans? And that's when you have another mouse in the palace about to break out, that's when you've got some serious issue on your hands. Is it getting out of control? And how do they stop it, Jason?
Well, it's definitely out of control. I have a theory, and I don't know if it's correct or makes sense, but I have a feeling that part of the reason why there's so much aggressiveness and so much hostility and people behaving maybe the way they normally on a normal circumstance wouldn't, has something to do with COVID and being like not able to go to games like for almost a year and a half, people being cooped up in their houses. I think there's a lot of energy out there that's kind of, people are actually allowed to do things now, like not wear a mask. Like, I'm not saying that's the whole entire reason, but it's just kind of a little coincidence that all of a sudden these things are getting more to the point where it's out in the open, as opposed to being something that you only see in Philly or, maybe on a rare occasion, New York or wherever. Just a thought. Like I said, it could be off base, but
I don't know. I
mean,
never
you're shaking your head, Phil, but a lot of people were.
No, I've been shaking my head because I never really thought of it in that aspect, and I'm not really sure. Like, I'm trying to form an answer, but I'm not sure whether I've got an answer to it yet because I'm not sure. So.
I think, Jason, that is one of the factors. You've been cooped up in a house. You've been told to wear a mask. You're told you can't go out to eat and stuff like that. People have had it. And I think you add that to the exorbitant prices that you have to pay to park, to eat in the stadium, and the ticket itself. And then the number one factor, bar none, is alcohol. It's alcohol. And that is the proponent that escalates these events. These guys get shit-faced at the game. They get shit-faced in the parking lot, and then are allowed in the game, and then all hell breaks loose. And you can't deny that. You want to solve it, Phil? Stop selling alcohol. Yeah. That'll never happen. But stop selling alcohol. That'll curtail a lot of that stuff that goes on.
I think the alcohol plays a factor into the fans fighting with fans a lot more than the fans. I mean, maybe if it definitely plays a factor when you start throwing things at fans for sure. But I think the heckling of the players and the verbal abuse that let's be honest, it's not "you suck." That's not what they're chanting anymore. They're taking it to extreme. I kind of was going, Jason, towards the side that the continued boom in social media. And the fact that you have so much more, all these players have social media accounts. Everybody follows them. Everybody's got burner accounts. They feel like they can say whatever they want to these players on social media because they've got, behind a computer screen or phone screen, tough guy attitude, keyboard warriors. And then they think they get away with it there. So they think they can get away with it at the stadium. And unfortunately, these players, yes, they make millions of dollars. They kind of got to accept some of the abuse because of what they do. But to an extent, they're getting a little fed up with taking things to the extreme right now. And I think the social media boom is a little bit, at least in my mind, actually not a little bit, a big part of why the interaction between the fans and the players is getting to the extreme that it is.
I mean, I think
I stole Jason's idea.
Huh?
I thought the way you reacted, I thought I stole your idea there.
No, I think you nailed it. Like, I didn't think of that part of it. So that just shows you, like, a lot of times it's about hearing other opinions. Like, I think my thing is maybe a minor thing to do with it. But
I mean,
social media, I definitely think the social –
think about the way people treat Jalen Reagor on social media. Whatever you think of Jalen Reagor, the football player, just think about how they treat him and the things that – I don't know how much you've seen, but Jason, we had an episode like a couple months ago about bullying Jalen Reagor. Like we spent literally 30 minutes talking about that.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the problem. And then the fans take it too far. Then the players turn around and chirp back. And when the players chirp back, that's when you start seeing bottles thrown and fights breaking out and stuff.
I think it's a lot of the problem. And you're right. I think it's because they get away with doing it and there's no repercussions. Like the worst repercussion that you will have on Twitter if you curse somebody out or whatever is you get suspended or, whatever. That's not a repercussion. Like, it's not like they're being locked up for saying it. So in their mind, they go to a game. Of course, they start abusing alcohol. Like Mark said, I think that is another component. They're, you're seeing more and more tailgates. You're seeing the young kids. They want to call us boomers. These young kids are worse than we were. At least we went out and we had fun. These guys are like out there like beating people up and whatever. They carry it on into the field of play. Like, like you have all these people that now alcohol gives people the ability, they lose their inhibition. So why do you think there's more people running on the field? Like you have more and more of these guys streaking or whatever, on the field, running on, trying to tackle, an umpire. Like it's just happening more and more times. And you're right. I think the mentality is what the main issue is. And it definitely comes from social media. Just being able to say what you want to say and not have anybody come back at you and like you called it, keyboard warriors. And now they say, oh, well, I'm in the field. Fuck it. I say it on Twitter. Why can't I just call him an asshole? And what do you think they're going to do? Like eventually, if you start calling a player an asshole in the field, eventually they're going to get to the point where they're like, dude, enough is enough. Like we
hear them calling out their wives, their kids, eventually these guys are going to chirp back.
The other thing, too, is the access that you have to the players. For example, in an NBA game, you're sitting right – if you have enough money, you're sitting right behind the bench.
You can sit right next to the bench.
At Citizens Bank Park, have you ever gone to the outfield and the opposing bullpen is right there? I've gotten – I won't say thrown out, but I definitely was asked to leave Ashburn Alley because I was heckling the Arizona Diamondbacks pitcher that was warming up because, again, access to social media and whatnot. I looked him up on Baseball Reference, and I found out how much he made, and I was giving him shit about, like, how terrible a pitcher he was and how much he was making and how he was a first-round flop. That information just wasn't available when you were seeing games at the Vet, and you weren't even close to to players at all. So that has a lot to do with things as well.
I got to cut you off for a second, Mark. Jason, I didn't realize Mark was actually the problem. Obviously, Mark is the problem right there. We just learned why there's a problem with the fans and the players. Because of Mark. We solved it all. We can just get rid of Mark, and then everything will get better.
Bingo.
I've been known to heckle a player or two, but nothing derogatory, nothing racial. No profanity, no your mother, your wife, your kids stuff. Just going viral as an addiction. People, yeah.
It's absolutely everybody. It's all about TikTok famous. I mean, hell, we got Carter. Carter's got thousands of followers on TikTok. Hell, we had fans in the section Friday night next to us get kicked out because they saw Carter, who's part of Team DSM. One deck down and like 5 sections over, they noticed him and they started shouting things to Carter. And they were being extremely unruly. Luckily, we had a very good usher in our section. And I mean, it wasn't bothering me, but there was a bunch of old timers around us and it was interfering with them watching the baseball game and they got kicked out of the area. They also might not have had paid seats there. They might have been just like kind of sneaking into those seats. But, it's all about being famous. It's all about social media famous. And it's a big deal. Bring back the 700 level at the Vet. Absolutely. I miss
that place was nuts.
Yeah, it was kind of scary, sometimes.
Yeah,
but, how do you solve this problem, guys? Like you can't stop selling alcohol. You can't turn off social media.
Make the penalties worse. Make the penalties worse. Yeah. Lifetime ban. If the first time you act out like that, I'm not saying cursing, but have levels like If you get kicked out for any kind of fighting or any type of abuse towards an athlete, bang, you're gone forever. Cannot come into the Citizens Bank again. You got to make those stricter rules, or else people aren't going to take it seriously. That's probably part of the problem too. Nobody takes it seriously. Ooh, if I run on the field, I'm going to get $1,000 fine or whatever it ends up being. Or
I actually think if you run on the field, it's a pretty. I think you get arrested and go to jail for that. Actually,
well, it should be.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
you spend the night in jail, and it's like a $500 fine.
Mark speaks like he's done this before.
But people are still doing it. So is that serious enough penalties? What I'm saying.
No.
Make it more serious. Make it a year in jail. I mean, who is going to want to sit in jail for a year? Well, if you run on the field.
Well, if they get 10,
I mean, that's a little harsh, but
yeah,
I get what you're saying, Jason. Like you don't.
There's got to be a way to eliminate it. And if you can't stop selling alcohol, which you're not going to do, what else can you do?
Bring back the vet court. Yeah. Well, how about this? Okay, you can't eliminate the sale of alcohol, but you can eliminate tailgating before the game. Maybe to eliminate a couple thousand people going to the stadium already lubed up, ready to. I mean, some of these people go into these games. And I'm not trying to. Eagles fans will be like, "Well, we can't do away with Eagles tailgates on Sunday." Understand that, but all these people go into the stadium already, half shot to the wind. They don't even know what's going on the field. So maybe you eliminate tailgating, or you limit the amount of time you can tailgate. I don't know. There's got to be ways to just slow this down, because we just see it this weekend. The Mets was it the Mets game? There was a fight in the stands this weekend. You had the Phillies Mets situation where someone threw a phone. You had the Yankees situation. It's like it used to be like once every 6 months you would see something like this. Then once every 3 months. Now it's 3, 4, 5 times a week we see at sporting events stuff like this happen.
Please don't forget our West Coast friends in LA, San Francisco, and San Diego. LA fans might be the most violent fans in all of sports, across all sports. They are really, really bad. And every time I tweet shit out like that, I get a bunch of people, coming back at me. But take a look at the history of Giants Dodgers fights. I mean, the one that just continues to stick in my head is the guy that went to a Dodgers game and the Dodgers fans beat the shit out of him to the point where like he's brain damaged today. Like that's not fun. That's not sports. That's not cheering for your team. And listen, I'm the biggest sports fan out there for all the teams. I'm never going to throw a punch over somebody because, they like the Cowboys and I like the Eagles. It's just not going to happen.
Look, I'll give you a perfect example. At the game on Friday night, so we were in the last row of our section, back row of our section. Behind us was the standing room only, like little railing where you can eat your food. There were 2 guys wearing Brewers clothes, gear there. Okay, one had a yellow Brewers hat on, and someone in the deck above us was looking down and kept saying, "Hey, yellow, and they were bickering back and forth, but in a friendly, not aggressive way. And after the game, they both looked, they both gave each other a thumbs up. It was all good. But it's when you take it to the next level, when punches get thrown and you literally try to kill somebody at a Dodgers game because they're wearing a Giants jersey. It's an extreme part of the situation, but it's definitely gotta get better somehow. It's got to.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely ramped up, and I would say extremely this year, but I think you're just seeing a lot more too. I think social media, you said it's a reason behind it. I also think social media plays a part in that we see it more because people are videoing things more often today too. It's just social media in a sense is a blessing and a curse because it's like you can look at it as being like, okay, it's good, that we have access to things, but it's also become a cancer in that so many people believe that they can just do whatever they want and say whatever they want and not have repercussions.
If you guys were players or athletes or coaches or a celebrity of some form, wouldn't it be best just to not have your own social media?
I wouldn't.
I mean, if I was Bryce Harper or, Jalen Rager or whoever, the biggest of bit highs, Joel Embiid, I know that's part of his brand is his social media, but he gets probably attacked just more than even anybody. And
if I had social media and I was an athlete, at the least, I would have it private to the point where nobody can.
Then you can't be that then you can't be egged on to the point that when you get to the stadium and this happens, that you don't, take it too far. So anyway, let's transition out of this because we're at 55 minutes here, and I know Mark's going to talk for 75 minutes on the final topic of the day. So what is concerning has been the topic today on Overreaction Monday here. So Jay Wright obviously retired last week. We haven't had Mark on since it. Then Jay Wright did speak. Was it Thursday or Friday?
Friday morning.
Friday morning he spoke, announcing his retirement. Actually, when he spoke, kind of gave me a little glimmer that he might try to coach maybe in the pros. But Jay Wright did talk about, the direction that the game of college basketball is taking definitely played a part. Are you concerned with the direction that college basketball is taking, that Jay Wright is right, that it's not going in the right direction, Mark, and that you might see some more of these old-time coaches retire? The game's going to completely change, and in 3 to 4 years, we might be looking at a totally different type of college basketball, college sports in general.
The landscape in college sports is definitely changing. And listen, for the players there with the NIL agreements, they absolutely deserve that. You have the NCAA making money off of their backs, and they get a college tuition, but they're making tens of millions of dollars off of their backs. I can understand why it's important for those kids to get the money. You have that, and you have the transfer portal now where you have teams out there now in both football and basketball that probably are getting to the point where they're not going to recruit kids coming out of high school. They're just going to start pulling kids from the portal who have played somewhere else to cut their teeth and just have their pick of the litter of the best players that are out there. And Jay Wright has probably gone through a lot in his entire coaching career, the 30 years that he's been coaching. And he probably got to a point where he didn't have it in him to go through this yet another change in the college sport landscape. What did he say? He was giving it about 70% when he's asking everybody else to do 100, and it just didn't sit right with him. And, I give him credit. I mean, he made this decision with his wife. I mean, if you notice, everything in his conference was we, Patty and I. He was a true leader. And he wanted to make sure that if he was going out, that he was setting the school up for success and getting the right person in there so that Villanova wouldn't lose all the kids that he had recruited. And I think they did a phenomenal job convincing the parents to have those kids stay, a phenomenal job handing that off to Kyle Neptune. I feel bad for Fordham University because they only got Kyle for 1 year. But they're trying to create a program there that is beyond what might be going on in the NCAA landscape. And I think they're doing a hell of a job. And Jay Wright said it. He's like, listen, I'm just the keeper of Villanova basketball for the time I was here, and we want to hand it off to somebody else. I don't think he's going pro. I don't think he's going pro. I think he'll be a fantastic announcer, and you might see that going forward when he's ready. But right now he's still employed with the school as an ambassador, I guess like fundraiser, things like that. And listen, he deserves his vacation, however long it may be. And college basketball lost a great guy. Philadelphia lost a great coach, and he's got tough. Neptune coming in has big shoes to fill, but hopefully he can do it.
Did you cry a little bit when he retired?
When I was just going on the soliloquy, I started getting choked up a little bit because
you get a little bit clamped there,
Because if you follow him on Twitter and you see him on his press conferences, when you talk about class, this guy is all class, and he never takes the accolades. I mean, he was tweeting out after they lost to where were they at in Houston? Thanking the hotel and the hotel manager for accommodating Villanova and whatnot there. I'd like to think that he is the guy that's tweeting that stuff out. He probably has a social media manager doing it, but he probably says, hey, I want this tweet to go out. I want that to go out. He thanks every player, current and former, on their birthdays. Coaches versus Cancer, what he does for that organization, he's not a Calipari. He's not a Pitino. He's not some of these coaches out there that are just, snake oil salesmen. He's not that. And more guys need to be like him. And he's, unfortunately not going to coach anymore. It's a sad day in college basketball. It really is.
Jason, while Mark grabs a tissue there, anything to add to the sad state of college basketball there? Or however it's phrased? Do you agree with him on that?
I mean, it's definitely a sad day in college basketball. Definitely a sad day in Villanova. I couldn't agree more. Talk about a guy that, I mean, in my mind, he's one of the greatest coaches in Philadelphia history, like in sports. I mean, period. I mean, you can't say otherwise. The guy was just phenomenal. I do tend to disagree with Mark a little bit because I believe that Jay Wright will coach pro. Maybe not now, but I believe that he will get that itch that a lot of coaches get or players when they leave the game. And I think he's a guy that obviously has the talent to go to the NBA and be successful because of how good of a coach he is. And he knows basketball so well. And that, to me in itself, he would definitely be a target if somebody wants to give him a lot of money. Now, obviously, I know he's not about the money, but money does talk. Let's face it, guys. So that's just my opinion. I don't know the situation. I'm not.
That actually might be, Jason, a good way to tweak it back to the fans and the players and all. I mean, as players make more money, the fans get more, aggressive towards them as well. So money plays a factor in these guys playing longer, coaching longer, but it also plays a factor in why fans hate on them more and come at them more. Mark looked up a guy's salary, and because he wasn't, pitching to that salary, he got thrown out of Ashburn Alley. Look, it was just a total joke I made. I appeared on my man Mark Solano's statement games, making the picks this past weekend, and we did terrible with it because the Sixers lost. But he asked me about Jay Wright, and I'm like, you know what? What if? I mean, it's not going to happen. I would put it at 1% likelihood. Mark would literally cry for months on end if this happened. But what if the Lakers, who now need a head coach, call Mr. Jay Wright and be like, yo, come coach the Lakers? How upset would you be, Mark?
I would be furious if he left Villanova to coach that.
The coats or the suits, the slick back hair.
I mean, he would fit in nicely in LA. Don't get me wrong. But I don't – I mean, he is a local guy. I don't see him venturing far off. If he does, I think, Jason, if he does coach the pros, I think the Sixers are going to be the only place that he would say yes to. Either that or maybe the Knicks or the Nets. I don't think he's going to venture far off from where the home is. I think he would be a fantastic pro coach because I think what he does kind of transcends basketball. A lot of guys won't translate over to pro, but he's a guy that will. He is very, very well respected in the overall basketball community. I'd be furious if he coached the Lakers. I would accept that he would coach the Sixers.
All right, I think we're going to wrap it up there for the day here on Overreaction Monday right here on Trending in the AM. We'll be back tomorrow. Look, it's draft week, guys. NFL draft is Thursday night. We got a guest tomorrow. We'll make the announcement later today on Twitter. We got a guest for tomorrow morning's Trending in the AM. We're going to talk draft a lot this week. We'll obviously keep talking Sixers and Phillies this week, but obviously it is draft week. Love it. We finally get to see the almost final product of our Philadelphia Eagles after this week. So we got lots coming up on Trending in the AM and DSM Media all week long. Make sure you're staying tapped in, guys. For my main man, Jason Voorhees, Mark Moscatelli, Mark with a C. I am Phil Stifle, your host. Thank you for tuning in today, guys. Make sure you're following us all. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Everybody have a great Monday, and let's go Sixers. 6-5, right, guys?
6-5. We've been saying it all year.